Are the 6 days of creation in Genesis literal? What implications does this have? Let's hear John Calvin's understanding of the topic. The work of the 6 days shows God's goodness toward men. With the same intent, Moses relates that God's work was completed, not in a moment, but in 6 days. For by this circumstance we are drawn away from all fictions to the one God who distributed his work into 6 days, that we might not find it irksome to occupy our whole life in contemplating it. Here also, until human reason is subjected to the obedience of faith and learns to cultivate that quiet to which the sanctification of the 7th day invites us, it grumbles, as if such proceedings were foreign to God's power. But we ought in the very order of things diligently to contemplate God's fatherly love toward mankind, in that he did not create Adam until he had lavished upon the universe all manner of good things. God himself has shown by the order of creation that he created all things for man's sake. For it is not without significance that he divided the making of the universe into 6 days, Genesis 1. Even though it would have been no more difficult for him to have completed in one moment the whole work together in all its details than to arrive at its completion gradually by a progression of this sort. But he willed to commend his providence and fatherly solicitude toward us in that, before he fashioned man, he prepared everything he foresaw would be useful and salutary for him. How great ingratitude would it be now to doubt whether this most gracious Father has us in his care, who we see was concerned for us even before we were born. The first day. Here the error of those is manifestly refuted, who maintain that the world was made in a moment. For it is too violent a cavil to contend that Moses distributes the work which God perfected at once into 6 days, for the mere purpose of conveying instruction. Let us rather conclude that God himself took the space of 6 days, for the purpose of accommodating his works to the capacity of men. Let us make man. God is not now first beginning to consider what form he will give to man, and with what endowments it would be fitting to adorn him, nor is he pausing as over a work of difficulty. But, just as we have before observed, that the creation of the world was distributed over 6 days, for our sake, to the end that our minds might the more easily be retained in the meditation of God's works, so now, for the purpose of commending to our attention the dignity of our nature, he, in taking counsel concerning the creation of man, testifies that he is about to undertake something great and wonderful. Truly, there are many things in this corrupted nature which may induce contempt, but if you rightly weigh all circumstances, man is, among other creatures, a certain preeminent specimen of divine wisdom, justice, and goodness, so that he is deservedly called by the ancients a world in miniature. God therefore sanctifies the 7th day, when he renders it illustrious, that by a special law it may be distinguished from the rest, whence it also appears that God always had respect to the welfare of men. I have said above that 6 days were employed in the formation of the world. Not that God, to whom one moment is as 1,000 years, had need of this succession of time, but that he might engage us in the consideration of his works. He had the same end in view in the appointment of his own rest, for he set apart a day selected out of the remainder for this special use. Wherefore, that benediction is nothing else than a solemn consecration, by which God claims for himself the meditations and employments of men on the 7th day. Every 7th day has been especially selected for the purpose of supplying what was wanting in daily meditation. First, therefore, God rested. Then he blessed this rest, that in all ages it might be held sacred among men. Or he dedicated every 7th day to rest, that his own example might be a perpetual rule.